Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee from the Skill Builder channel, back out looking at another damp problem. Now this has mystified them for quite a while, so I came to look at it the other week, and what we found was there was a big patch here where the plaster was blowing off, and I could feel a slight bump in the wall there, and I thought, okay, that's a chase, that's a bit of pipe work that's going up in the wall, and maybe it's leaking. And we just took that bit of plaster away, and then we found that it wasn't any pipe there at all, and it was just coming out here. So I had a little smell of it and it was quite damp, but actually now we've left that uncovered. It's been about a week now. This property isn't occupied at the moment, but it will be soon. After a week we found that it had dried out pretty well. So okay, so nobody's using the property at the moment. It hasn't rained for a week or so. It's been very, very cold, but we haven't had any rain. The idea of it being rising damp was a strong possibility. The damp was coming all the way along the wall here, but it seems to have largely disappeared. On this corner we were also getting damp coming up. Now this is an extension, so this is the original building. This is a drop down on the floor, and at one time I think this must have been the timber floor here, but it was filled in and they concreted the floor over. So I would imagine that they put a membrane in at that point, and that underneath the concrete is a polythene sheet or something like that. So the idea that there's moisture migrating through from the old building is probably not the case. So I think we can eliminate that. The important thing with any of these jobs is not to jump to conclusions. We've got to look at every single possibility. Let's have a look next door in the old house. First thing, when I see in a wet room, alarm bells, you know, because I've seen so many leaking wet rooms because they've been done badly. So I immediately thought, well, I'm onto something here. The wet room's the problem. Again, don't jump to conclusions. Just because you've seen it 100 times before doesn't mean that in this case it's the same thing. So we started off testing the drain here. We just ran the hose pipe and filled the drain up and blocked it up outside. The shower drain is sound. The grouting and everything else looks good around here. It looks like it was a professional job done with a nice former. And so I'm quite happy that there's nothing going on there. Now as we come across the floor here, there's no real discoloration in the grout there, which would suggest some kind of underfloor leak. If it was migrating all the way across the room to get to there, then you would expect to see it discolour in the grout, which hasn't happened. So I'm fairly happy with that. Now, the basin's not a problem because it goes straight out through the wall. So we can't see what's going on behind there. We've got a pipe that comes through from there. So I think I'm going to lift this tile at the edge, make a little hole and maybe put an inspection camera in, or even a torch would be better, and see if we can see anything that's coming behind that boxing. But the other thing that I've got to do is test this loo. Now the way we do that is we plug up the manhole outside. So now we've put a plug in the manhole, we've flushed the loo. We would expect that now to start rising. Okay, well maybe it's filling the pipe up and the air's getting through, so we have to assume that it's going to take 2 or 3 flushes for it to fill up to the brim. It's all right, I've got this bunged up, this drain. There's nothing coming through the bung, so I'm pretty sure that's all right. Now every time that Alex is in there flushing the loo, it's filling up the pipe, but then I can hear a noise, which is really odd because you would never normally hear a noise under there, you know, somewhere around there. So what I'm thinking is there's a break in this pipe and it's coming through somewhere. I'm going to go and ask him to do it again and see if you can hear the noise. Now that noise, where the hell's that going to? I reckon there's a break in that pipe under the ground. I've had this before in quite a new house, funnily enough, where there was a break under the floor. They got an internal soil stack. I went out to the drain. There was nothing coming out of the manhole. Every time they flushed the loo, nothing came out. And it turned out when we dug up the kitchen floor that there was a massive, great hole under the kitchen floor where all their sewage had been going for months. What did they do in the end? Knock the house down. No word of a lie, the whole house was demolished because it was built basically on made up land. It was built on a rubbish tip. Several houses on that estate had to be knocked down in the end. That was just one I discovered anyway. So it happens.